There's nothing more important than creating value in the world, and there's no end to how you can do it. The harder it is, all the opportunity in the world is in the struggle. So focus on creating value and value struggle because that's how you develop. And all the work that I'm doing is about perpetuating holistic value creation behaviors into the world. It's material value creation, it's emotional energy, and it's spiritual value creation. We create the environment from which everybody creates value. We want it to be energizing. We want all the right stuff in place that brings out the intrinsic motivation, productive energy from our team members. So that advice for me is, hey, you can create value in the world. There's no end to it, and struggle is how you do it.
Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, and today we have Leigh Benson with us. Leigh, thank you so much for joining us.
It is so good to be here, talking to you from the other side of the planet from where you're at.
Yep. So, for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, my name is Lee Benson. I have started 8 different businesses from scratch. I've sold 3 of them, one for well into 9 figures. My current business is called Execute to Win, or ETW, and you can learn all about it at etw.com. But we actually have a business management operating methodology we call the mind management system that we have installed in lots of different companies to help them increase the value of their business. In fact, all of the leadership development work that I do, that we do, through my team, is all about connecting every leader to work really well together to increase the value of the business that they're engaged with. And that's working pretty well. A lot of great stories of doubling the value of a business in less than a year. And that's more common, actually.
Okay, so when you said running that amount of business, are you running every business like at the same time?
Well, I have an amazing team. I'm currently CEO of 2 different businesses, ETW and another one called Dinner Table. And Dinner Table is a community of families around the world raising kids that create value in the world. And we have over 40,000 parents in our community and growing. And then all of the other businesses that I'm heavily invested in or was part of starting, I have an amazing CEO, an amazing team or president. So you can do a lot as long as you've got a good team around you.
Okay, okay. So, can you share the story behind growing Able Aerospace from 2 employee to 500 and what drove business decision along the way?
Yeah, Able Aerospace, it's really kind of a collection of a few different companies that I sold together in 2016. It's always interesting. Like you never know where things are going to go. In the mid 1980s, I was an electroplating operator during the day, and I was playing music and rock and roll bands at night. And so I'm repairing components using electroplating. And it was that idea that in 93, the end of that year, I took and said, hey, we can apply this to repairing aircraft parts. And that first really full year, which is 1994, we developed myself and 2 other individuals, 7 repairs. And I just hit the road selling those. And these repairs were for helicopters. And my thinking was, if a helicopter operator is really small, they've got 1 or 2 helicopters, if they save $1,000 on a repair, that's a big deal for them. So I'm going to start there. We'll build the business big enough, and then eventually we can do something that's worthwhile for large aircraft operators like a Delta Airlines, for example. And we would, that first year, none of us got paid. Uh, and the 2 folks that were with me, I said, this is going to be an amazing journey. And if you work for free for the first year, I'll give you some equity. And they both agreed. It was kind of funny. One said, oh, this will work. It'll be great. The other one said, it'll never work. We don't have money. We don't have customers. We don't have equipment. But he said, sign me up anyway. I just want to see what's going to happen. And that individual, fast forward 23 years, he got a check for over $30 million for making that decision. But it's interesting how doing that one process turned into this business that very quickly grew from nothing. The first year, 1994, we had $360,000 in sales. I mean, just barely making it, almost going out of business 15 times. totally normal story for startup companies, I would say. And then when I sold it, we were, right around $100 million in sales, 500 employees, 2,000 customers in 60 countries around the world. And what an incredible journey! And it was just creating some value, listening to customers. They wanted this next thing, and the 7 repairs we had that first year turned into literally over 10,000 products. There were still about 100 products that probably made up 80% of our revenue. But what an incredible journey, starting in one spot and going. And what it's taught me is that you can start anywhere and literally go everywhere. And at the time I sold it, an equally good option for me would have been keeping the business. The company that purchased us, I remember walking away from the deal 3 times. They approached us, they wanted to buy us, and we finally got a deal that was a real win for both businesses. And by the way, they've done just a fantastic job with the business. I've been following them for the last 10 years because it was about 10 years ago I sold it, and super proud of how they've maintained the brand. And a lot of times big companies, when they buy smaller mid-sized companies, they very unintentionally destroy it. But this organization, Textron's done an amazing job with it.
Okay, is that the company that you sold for 9 figures?
Yes. Yeah, Able Engineering and Able Aerospace combined into one when I sold it. Able Engineering, their part of it was 9 figures. Able Aerospace was an 8-figure sale, but we combined both of them, and they called the combined entity Able Aerospace, which makes a lot of sense. I love the name of that for a company in that industry.
So, what are the biggest mistake you see people make when trying to scale a company?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and I think about it a lot. I talk about it a lot. I work with a lot of teams, and it's interesting how you can find a process. You can read a book that a very successful CEO wrote, and here's my 5-step process, 8-step process, whatever that is. It worked for them because of how they navigated those steps. And I think the challenge for leaders trying to scale their companies is they're not paying attention to the forces that can take them out of the game. So let's say you've got a good process. There's lots of operating models out there. What's your business model? What's your strategy for increasing the value of your business? How are you constantly improving the value of your product and increasing the number of people that want to buy it? What's going on with the culture of your business? So all of this we're going forward, but there's some forces that really play against us, and I don't think there's a lot of thought being put into this. There's ignorance, like your team just doesn't know. You're not aligned. We think everybody understands where we're going and they're all doing the right stuff. Most of the time they're not. So they just don't know. There's lack of capability. We have lots of folks in roles that just aren't capable of doing the thing. And often we'll say, oh, that didn't work. And I'm like, no, we didn't even put a capable person in there to try it. So you don't even know. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe your assumption is wrong, but until you have somebody capable, you don't really know and you can't make a good call. And then there's something, around hidden agendas. You don't know what that is, but if your radar is up and you're looking for this misalignment or lack of knowledge or, just ignorance, I kind of put it all in that bucket. And you're looking for ensuring we have the capability to achieve the outcomes to scale the company, and you're aware of hidden agendas. Not everybody is a honest, upfront, I would say ethical or moral player. I mean, there's some folks out there with some agendas that are absolutely against the company. So it's navigating all of that. And I'll go in and work with a new business, and the CEO, I've got an example right now where CEO individual bought a company. We're 18 months in, and he's just like, we're stuck. I can't go anywhere. There's drama. There's lots of it. And I go inside the business and I could see all 3 of those forces in play. And it's only taken us 6 weeks to shore it up and get it on the right track. And I think had we not done that, he would have lost 100% of his investment buying this company. And now I can see us tripling the value of the business over the next 3 years. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, but we're working with people. And I want to believe, in a perfect world, everybody has great intentions and we're working together to create the value that we agreed. That's just not the case. So I think our job as CEO is to make sure we really feel the team right. We're fully aligned on the value we're supposed to be creating. We're ensuring everybody has the capability. and we're weeding out hidden agendas. We want an honest, straightforward culture, in there. How does that resonate with you?
Okay, I'm curious. How do we know that someone don't have any kind of hidden agenda?
Well, for me, start out with like, let's be really clear. If you're running this department, let's say it's marketing or sales or whatever that function is in the business, let's be really clear about the value that function is supposed to create. So once we can determine that, and I like to come up with what I call the most important number for a function. It's the one number that above all others reflects the value that function was designed to create or for the business, profit, for example, and it will drive the majority of the right behavior. So we're really clear on that. And we know where we're at today, where we want to be sometime in the future, 6 months, 3 months, a year, 2 years, whatever that is. And we're tracking objectively at any point in time, we're on track, we're at risk, we're falling behind, or we're overdriving it. So we know exactly where we're at. And when I can see the work that they're doing, the best work that they're doing to improve that number, and I can see how they're collaborating with others, and that needs to be part of our operating methodology, it exposes those agendas. When we're not clear about that stuff and we're not really holding them objectively accountable, it's easier for that stuff to go unnoticed. But I find that when you're watching and participate in meetings and just even asking questions at the end of a meeting, let's say we're a senior leadership team, it's 3 people, it's 12 people, all different size companies, doesn't matter, but you're in there. What's the purpose of that meeting? And I think the purpose of that meeting is to collectively do our best work to increase the value of the business. Great. So we're following up. Where's everybody at on their most important numbers? Are they delivering? Are we keeping it all in balance so we can grow the value of the business? And then a simple question, you observe how they participate in the meeting, but a simple question at the end, what's your biggest takeaway from this meeting? And I do this at every meeting at the end. It doesn't take very long, but what's your biggest takeaway from this meeting that you heard that you believe will most increase the value of the business? When they talk, you know everything. And even if they've got the best of intentions and what they say is a complete miss, that's really good news because you know where their head's at and you can be developing them. But that alignment to the value that they need to create, making sure that everyone is productively collaborating and you're asking questions to understand where they're at, you'll find it out pretty quick.
I think when we ask questions, it forces everyone to collaborate.
Yeah. Yeah, and how many meetings, and this is probably way more the norm than an exception, but how many meetings do we go into and there's typically 1 or 2 people dominating the whole time? Or we have a meeting with, 8 or more people and it goes an hour or 2 hours and it's a whole bunch of 2 and 3 person conversations and everybody else is saying, "Why are we here?" Yeah. So I love what you said there. It's about ensuring productive collaboration. And what's the purpose of being a leader inside a business? Well, it's to do your job to collectively with the other leaders increase the value of the business. Sounds so simple, but very few will say that. And when I ask CEOs, what's your job? What do you think your most important job is? I'll hear things and they're all good things. Well, I'm in charge of making sure culture is right. I'm, branding for the company, leadership and all of that, leading by example. I said, okay, but all that subordinate to your job as a CEO is to continually and responsibly increase the value of the business. That's it. And so by proxy, your senior team is collectively doing that too. And so when you come into a meeting, what's your purpose? And I just said it a little bit ago, but the purpose is to increase the value of the business. And what's the best work we can do to make that happen? And same thing, CEOs don't have a very good answer. But when I say that, they lock into it, they make that their job. When I ask senior leaders, what's your purpose for this meeting, the senior leadership meeting? I've never heard that answer. Once we start working with teams, like that is the answer. This is why we're here. And then we very quickly start developing a list of not that many, but some very powerful strategic initiatives that have to get done in order to responsibly and continually increase the value of the business. And when you get the focus that way, you almost can't help but increase significantly. I have 2 right now that I would be blown away, and these are new in the last 2 months, clients that I'm personally working with because I always like to work with a couple of companies to stay in the game. I have a number of team members doing this work too. But I would be surprised after only 60 days of looking at it if by the end of next year we haven't doubled the value of both of their businesses. just by simply focusing the way we're talking about here.
Okay, and couple of minutes ago you said like giving equity to a guy with whom you started a company. So when you said equity, like how much equity we should give them if you're starting a company and we are not paying them in salary or anything?
Yeah. That is such an interesting topic, and you can get in a lot of trouble if you do that wrong out of the gate. I think most people give away more than they need to. I did, but I'm not unhappy with the deal. I always kept the majority of the stock in all of my businesses, and so I did really, really well, selling the companies and all the way along the way. But it really comes down to when you have your equity, you're starting the business, and if you want to do sweat equity, you can get people to come in, you give them some equity in lieu of pay. Be really careful about how you set that up. Don't give more than you need to. And wherever you can, make them earn it. And in all of my businesses, I've done this. And in all of my businesses, I have a buy-sell agreement that if they leave for any reason whatsoever or no reason at all, they have to sell the equity back to me, the company. And it's at a fixed price. They don't get to go out and get some weird valuation that's, 400 something. And so it's just set. And my thinking there was, and I've kind of learned this the hard way before starting my own companies, that unless you have control, you're kind of an employee and you have to really trust the person you're working for. And so you want to control all that. You want to keep, you don't have to have the majority of the equity in your company to have controlling interest, because it comes down to two things. It comes down to decision rights, like who gets to decide what, where, when, and how that we do things, and then economics, how does the money get divided up? And so I always want to keep control. And if somebody leaves, I don't want them on the outside of the business with their hand out constantly criticizing, wanting more money and bringing no
Hmm.
value. If you're in the company and you're bringing value, great. You can have it. The early mistakes that I made in giving equity is assuming if I gave somebody equity, they would act and think and get results like an owner. Never the case, like never the case. And so there was a few times it didn't work out and we had to buy them out and exit them. And then I learned, after a few mistakes, hey, let's make sure they earn it. So if you do these things, get these results and show up this way culturally within the business, after a certain amount of time, you can get this. So I've always made them earn it. And what's interesting, the ones that earned it, whether they got it or didn't get it, they all acted like owners and got amazing results. The ones that got it early on, that I gave it as, again, one of my mistakes, just that would motivate them. They didn't change. Like, people are kind of who they are, going through that way. So I'm not sure if I fully answer your question. Just be really thoughtful. Don't give away more than you have to. Make sure they earn it. And if they leave for any reason or no reason, get it back. Yeah.
Okay, so if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, then what would it be?
At what age?
Okay. Hmm.
I'll be
Before you
six.
started your business.
I'll be 64 in 2 days. So at what age?
Okay. First of all, advance happy birthday to you. Live long, stay strong, and enjoy your life. Okay. Okay. So
Well, the challenge with that question is, what could you say that a younger version of myself or you could actually hear? And that's the challenge, because I've asked that question a number of times. I'll have a group of, 8 very successful people around the table. Hey, if you could talk to your 16-year-old self or 25-year-old self and give some, what would it be? And they have the most thoughtful answers. And I said, that's great. Now let's go around one more time and give yourself some advice, your younger self, that you think they would actually hear.
okay. Yes. Yes.
Like, what would they actually hear? And
Uh-huh.
mine would be somewhere in the category of, there's nothing more important than creating value in the world, and there's no end to how you can do it. So the harder it is, all the opportunity in the world is in the struggle. So focus on creating value, and value struggle, because that's how you develop. And all the work that I'm doing is about perpetuating holistic value creation behaviors into the world. It's material value creation, it's emotional energy, and it's spiritual value creation. And spiritual to me is connectedness. And even in all of my businesses, lots of programs to make sure that employees had opportunities to strengthen relationships with each other. And it was an amazing environment. It felt better. The emotional energy piece of it is all about, especially in business, it's the X factor for leadership. We create the environment from which everybody creates value. We want it to be energizing. We want all the right stuff in place that brings out the intrinsic motivation, productive energy from our team members. And so, that advice for me is, hey, you can create value in the world. There's no end to it, and struggle is how you do it. So just sit on that and think about it. And then it'll develop because all the other stuff, if I would say, oh, it's going to be amazing, just keep going. What is that? That might make it worse for me. Yeah.
With okay, with all the success you have, what do you think it happens because of which habits?
I would say it's embracing struggle, but I've got something I developed. When people ask me, hey, where did you get your start? I say, well, it was at 6 years old pulling weeds for 25 cents an hour. And I'm riding my bike down the street. A neighbor waves me down, didn't know her, elderly woman. And she said, are you willing to do this? I'm like, sure. And I came from a really low income family. And back then in the late 60s, you could buy two candy bars and have change with 25 cents. But I remember it feeling amazing. Like, this is really good. This is my money. We don't have money in the family, really. It was always a real problem as we talked about it. And then that went to, shoveling snow and mowing lawns and paper routes and dishwasher, busboy, cook. By the time I was kicked out of the house, the beginning of my senior year in high school, I'm making $6 an hour as a cook. It was a non-event for me to find an apartment and pay for it, and all of that. So the main habit for me was staying on this value creation cycle. I would struggle to develop a capability. It would build my confidence. I have the capability, and I would use that to create value, trading my best efforts for somebody else's accumulated best efforts, which is their money. And then I would just keep taking bigger and bigger steps. So my number one habit is continuing on this value creation cycle. Struggle to develop a capability. It builds fulfillment, confidence, self-esteem. Use it to create value. And the more capable you are of creating value, the more you can get in return. But it's got to be the real world. It can't be friends and family. It's got to be a real exchange of value where somebody sees the value in what they're paying you. And that's what I've done, and I would say the first 23, 24 years after I was moved out of the house in high school was about building this foundation of capability, and then it just sort of skyrocketed up, and that's part of it too. You have to struggle, you have to stick with it, and struggle is actually good. Even unhealthy struggles, there's a lot of value to be, gleaned out of it, and I love it. And a lot of young adults today that I work with and I've worked with thousands of kids on this topic, will say a lot of them get it right. More are getting it right lately than before, but a lot of them will say, I want that. I want to be where you're at. And I always say, well, don't you mean you want to earn that? Like, you can't be something without earning it. And they're not really willing to take a job in a lot of cases. They don't want to do this. They don't want to be seen a certain way. It's like, what are you talking about? There's dignity in all work. You get to learn to work with people and help a business thrive and grow. The best thing about virtually all businesses are you get to work with people. A lot of the younger generation in the United States, I know you're in India, they don't wanna earn it, and it's a culture that I wanna change, and that's a lot of the work that I'm doing with Dinner Table. Let's develop kids that have amazing character traits, great capability, and less limiting beliefs when they launch into adulthood to make the world a better place. By chance, do you know Dr. Abraham George? I had him on my podcast. He's got the Shanti Baba school in, India,
No, 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 no. I don't
and
know
he
him.
he brings kids in, at, I think at 4 years old and keeps them all the way through, pre-K through 12th grade and helps them go to college, and how life-changing that is. But it's amazing the work ethic that school instills in these kids. India, I was super impressed. The next couple of years, I wanna get out there and see the school and see what I can do to help.
Oh my God, I also want to go there.
Yeah. Amazing, yeah,
Yeah.
and there was a Netflix, mini series on it, Daughters of Destiny, And it just kind of goes through the whole school and all of that. It was so well done. Yeah, Dr. Abraham George, he founded it.
I will check it out. And for our listeners who want to connect with you and want to get help from you, where can they go?
Yeah, the best place to go is our website, which is etw.com. And every month I have a live call for my Leadership Value Lab group. If you're up for it, join my leadership community. And we go through these concepts, how to help you work really smart and effectively to increase the value of the business that you work for.
And can you talk about your new album?
Ah, well, it was new last year. The album, it's a rock band, and the album is called Landed, which is after the band. Our band's name is just simply Landed. And you can find the music anywhere that it's streaming, Apple Music, Spotify. And sometimes it's helpful to just to pick a song. So one of the songs is called Western Drive. So if you search by band Landed and then the song Western Drive, you'll see all 10 songs. And I started playing guitar when I was 5, 6 years old, and I don't remember not knowing how to play guitar. I've been in rock bands since before junior high school. In the first half of the 1980s, I played over 1,000 concerts. That's how I made most of
Wow.
my money back then playing music. I've been in several bands since then. I had a band in the late 90s that won the best new band at the Arizona Music Awards, and we played there and had 2 big record labels interested in working with us. But by that time, I was running 3 different companies, and I wanted to love music. It'll always be with me. I still play guitar 2 to 3 hours minimum every day. I wish I had more time for it. I'm calling from my home music recording studio right now because the room is so great for sonically for a podcast. And I'm working on another album now. It'll just always be there. And when I think about value creation, emotional energy, I think of the 3 macro buckets I talk about, material, emotional, and spiritual, as my strongest one. And music is about connecting emotion to notes, and guitar is amazing. There's an infinite number of ways to play one note, and there's no end to how you can connect emotion to it. So that's what fascinates me with it. People say I'm really good. All I know is I'm not even 10% of what I know is possible, and I'm gonna keep chasing it.
But you know what? I'm curious. Like, when you are busiest in your life, when you're building your business, so at that time, do you keep hobbies?
Well, music has stayed with me all the way through, and I think it's important to reset. Like for example, one of my businesses, had a full time martial arts school where I taught Taekwondo, ITF Taekwondo for quite a while, and I could be just completely burned out, super tired, like oh my gosh, and I have to go teach classes tonight. And I would go and I'd be there to teach the 5 o'clock and then 7 o'clock class. By the end of the night, I'm fully energized, ready to go. It's like, oh, this is so awesome. It's good to have these resets. Like if you
Hmm.
stay stuck in one spot, it can kind of burn you out, take energy out, depending on what's going on. But I found, and I've always had a lot going on. When I look at what I'm doing today, I'm doing more today at 64 than at any other time in my life. And I'm not slowing down, I'm speeding up and I'm getting more effective. But I have so many different things that completely reset my energy as I go through it. And I think it's really good. And now, as long as we're making progress in all these things, like I'm not doing involved in so many things that nothing's moving. As long as you're making progress, it's working. And it kind of comes down to your team, your systems, time management, all of that. Yeah, and listening to your podcast, getting ready for this and talking about time management, how do you do more with less stress and all of it? You've been focusing on it too, and there's no end to how we can do things there too. I don't. I think we all have limiting beliefs, and we have no idea what's possible for us to accomplish. But push the boundaries in a healthy way for you.
Okay, Lee. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, and it was really fun chatting with you.
Well, thank you for having me. This was very nice. One day, I guess in a couple years, when I get to your part of the world, maybe we can connect.
Yep, it'll be very much fun. I'm waiting for you. Come soon,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you. Yes, sir.